Yeah. So we got some early access tickets. They fell into our laps for this one, but we decided to go out and go down and check out Strays, starring Will Ferrell and Jamie Foxx. Are like the two leads, and this movie is a upcoming comedy about a dog who basically thinks that him and his owner are playing a game when in reality it's a game for the dog but not the owner. The owner's trying to get rid of him, and like he runs into this group of strays who kind of take him under their wing and like make him a part of their group, and then it's like just about him trying to get back to his owner and figure out like what his relationship is with his owner. And honestly, it kind of explores like what like just dogs relationships are with their owners kind of in general. I honestly, even saying that though, I feel like I'm giving this movie a little more credit than it deserves, because right off the bat I just want to say this is not like a movie where you're going to like get a deep message or anything. This is a hour and a half of comedy. This is one of those rare movies that you don't get a whole lot of anymore, where it's just like the last time I remember watching a movie like this, I brought it up I think on the last stream. I mentioned it to Beck, was Good Boys. I think was the last time I really remember going to see like an all out R-rated comedy like this.
Yeah.
But instead of it being like some 12-year-old boys, it's dogs. And for some, especially as somebody, like, all I will say is if you love dogs, go watch this movie. If you really love dogs, you will appreciate the humor in this movie. Just because it's like so, I feel like on the nose with like dog owner humor and shit, and just like how we would think dogs would think. um, yeah, I would definitely go check this out if you're like a strong lover of dogs. But it's also, it's just, yeah, it's an R-rated comedy starring dogs. And I, for one, I enjoyed it. I laughed quite a bit throughout. I thought it was, for the jokes were really well written. There were a lot of jokes. Obviously, not every joke is going to hit, but the ones that really needed to hit really hit, and that's what matters in a movie like this. Just as long as you can keep the laugh, like there's I think a certain laugh ratio you want to hit with a movie like this, and I feel like this movie kind of hit that laugh ratio. So
Yeah.
I really did appreciate that. And then yeah, just like the cast, everybody in it, they do a really good job. The voice acting is really on like point for like there's certain jokes, especially with the Great Dane in this movie. I don't want to get into spoilers, but the Great Dane in this movie, who's like kind of part of the crew of strays, he's got a lot of moments where like his line delivery, for whatever reason, just the way he delivers it is funnier than the line itself. And I feel like that's really hard to do with anything other than just a person. And somehow they did. I have to give this movie credit for that, at least that it there were certain moments where jokes that relied a lot on the mannerism of the character landed because they somehow nailed the mannerisms of the character for that. Um, and I before I get too into that, because I'm kind of shocked at how they pulled this off. I wanted to get your opinion on this movie first, Sam. So, what did you think of this movie?
I really enjoyed it. Yeah. Like you said, like it was laughs all the way through, and overall, just a great movie. One of my favorite jokes was involving the Great Dane that lasted throughout the movie. I think you, I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and then they use that for a very, very hardcore punchline. This movie it definitely gets its R rating. This is not like, don't bring your kids to the movie thinking like, oh, it might be R for like some dumb reason, but it's just a doggy movie. No, this is basically the best way I can describe it is this is like Superbad or The Hangover, but instead of people, it's dogs. It's literally what it is.
Yep.
It is like just it's a R-rated comedy, but it's about dogs, and I think it's definitely a dumb movie. I'm not gonna say this is like a fucking amazing movie. This blew my mind or anything, but as like a premise for a comedy, this works so well. So it's like it's just a fun hour and a half of just like basically living life in the perspective of a stray dog, and then you really get to like there's just a that hard R comedy tinge of humor to it. It's definitely juvenile. A lot of it is sex jokes and
Yeah.
juvenile jokes, but again, I think it's because of the fact it's dogs, animals, and it's like there's even like points in the movie where like other animals made me laugh harder than some of the dogs in the movie because of like they just hit you with things that you're not expecting to happen. So uh yeah, they really keep those coming. There is I'm not gonna say it, but there is one particular cameo in this movie I really did appreciate, and I I just love how they did it. It might have been a little like it was almost like a little cheap, but again, okay, so I will give a preface for this. We did have a couple beers before we went into this movie. I think that might help this movie. This is definitely not a movie that you just want to go into like in a bad mood or anything. Like you want to go into this with like some friends, having a good time, looking for some laughs. And then you get like a group of friends together to go see this and just like either have a good time and watch it, or if you're not liking it, just like fucking kind of make jokes to each other about it throughout the
Yeah.
movie. But honestly, I would think most people will probably find something to laugh at in this movie, especially as a dog lover. If you're Corella DeVille, I would say don't go see this movie. If you absolutely hate dogs, I mean, I don't understand why you would even think to watch this movie unless you were hoping they were all gonna get like flayed at the end. But this isn't that kind of movie. This is a comedy, so uh, yeah, just if you love dogs and you're looking for a laugh, I don't know. This is a good fucking hour and a half to kill time on
Yeah.
the weekend. And it's definitely no Barbie or Oppenheimer. Uh, those movies were very special, and there's a reason why they're doing as well as they are doing. Do I think this movie is gonna fucking like skyrocket through the box office? I don't know. I could see this movie getting some really good word of mouth and it taking off a little bit and doing better than expectations prediction wise. I don't think this thing's gonna like blow the box office roof off a third time or anything, but this is just, yeah, I mean, this is, if you're looking for something to watch, you already saw Barbie and Oppenheimer, and you're looking for something that came out this weekend, I think this is definitely like, especially if you miss the early 2000s era of comedies, like R-rated comedies like American Pie, Scary Movie, like just when you would go to a theater to watch an R-rated comedy and laugh with a group of adults. This is, I mean, we got that. We were lucky enough to, again, we got early screening tickets, so we were in a pretty full theater, and it was a lot of fun. I will say, uh, I didn't say anything during the movie. I actually haven't said anything to you about it until just now. But the I'm pretty sure gay couple. I could be wrong, but I think they were a gay couple. But the two gentlemen that sat next to us, uh, those motherfuckers didn't laugh like once the entire. I think they laughed one time the entire movie, and it was actually starting to. It was. I was starting to notice it because I was like, "What?" Like there were moments like I didn't go into this like I'm gonna laugh at everything that happens. Like it was one of those things where it's just like naturally there were jokes that just hit so well. I fucking like let out a belly laugh. And then I'm like looking over and these dudes are just like still nomming on their candy, just watching it like deadpan. and it was starting to bug me a little bit because I mean I'm sure there's, and I get it, not this movie is not for everybody, and maybe those guys were expecting something more highbrow. I don't know why you would, based off the trailers. If you've seen a trailer for this movie, you know what you're getting.
Yeah.
That's the best way to put it. Like, you know what you're getting. But just like, if you think like the best jokes from the movie are in the trailer, I will also say that is not the case. um, the best jokes were definitely held back for the movie. But that being said, um, yeah, just I would give this movie a fair shot, especially if you like R-rated comedies.
Yep.
Um, I've rambled quite a bit, Sam. I want to give you a little bit more time.
I mean, I don't really know what to say without like spoiling anything, but
Well, so we can also, I mean, we could do a spoiler discussion here. We could get into spoilers, and I can just put a preface ahead of it and be like, "This is a spoiler territory." Um, but I just, yeah, before we get into that, just if there's anything else you want to talk about without getting into spoilers. I also, before we get into spoilers, I also want to get like a rating from you.
gotcha.
But I guess while you're racking your brain for anything else you want to add, I'm gonna go ahead. So I really, like I said, I really enjoyed this movie. I thought this was really fun. Especially just like for an hour and a half. It's not like a lot of movies that come out nowadays where it's like 2.5 hours. Oppenheimer was fucking three something. Like, movies are long now. This is not a long movie. This is not a super long investment. This is an hour and a half of just solid jokes. They're not all gonna land, and they're all gonna land differently with different people. But like I said, I think you will find something to laugh at in this movie, especially as a dog lover. Um, and for that alone, and also one other thing I did want to bring up before we get into this one, I don't know how I almost forgot about this, but I brought it up to you kind of like near the end of the movie. I leaned over to you and I asked you if you thought they were real dogs or CGI.
I do remember that. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm still unsure.
I was like, kind of like the way you responded, I wasn't sure of myself, and then I was like, okay, yeah, maybe they're CGI. So before we got on here, I looked it up. 95% of this movie was real dogs.
What the hell?
And
And
that
they
is,
just CGI over the mouths, I'm guessing.
yeah, well, definitely yeah, for sure. But like and this is where it gets more interesting for me because I brought it up earlier, the mannerisms that sometimes are required for some of the jokes that land in this movie, especially with like the Great Dane. They somehow just fucking got these jokes to line up either with that Great Dane's movement, or they had a trainer that was so good that got him to move at the right, like, it's just like all the dogs moved so perfectly in the movie, and it felt so natural, and they felt so like independent. It was like, I was like, these have to be CGI, but then they looked so good. It was like they can't be. And yeah, it was basically like 95% from what I saw, 95% real dogs, and then 5% CGI dogs. And it was like, the director, even like when he started making this movie, he knew his thing was like, there's a rule in Hollywood where they say you don't work with children or animals if you can help it. And he said, fuck that, I want to work with animals. So he decided to fucking make it work. And so that just makes this movie all the more impressive to me. And for that, and just the humor in it and everything. And I definitely want to rewatch this now, knowing that, and like kind of analyze the technical aspects of this, because I'm kind of curious how they pulled some of this off. I would give this movie a solid like 3.3 out of 5.
Yeah, honestly, that's not bad. I mean, I really enjoyed it. like you were saying, a lot of
I'd almost go 3.4.
like you were saying, a lot of the jokes hit, right? It was just constant comedy.
Yeah,
It's just good
it
comedy.
does not let up.
Yeah.
And it's like, and that's what I'm saying. It's like, that's another thing. You could take it as a good or a bad thing, but the amount of jokes they throw at you, it's like it's a joke. It's joke, 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 joke. A lot of them hit,
Mm-hmm.
but it also depends on who you are, what jokes are gonna hit. So I think the fact that they throw so many jokes out there, that's why I say, like, I think you're gonna find something to laugh at, because while one joke might not land for me, like I noticed that as well. Like when we were watching it with the crowd, like I would laugh at certain things like really hard, other people wouldn't, and then they'd laugh really hard at stuff, and other people wouldn't. And there was like it was like every joke was hitting with different people in the audience. The one that I think made me feel the most weird though was definitely with the golden retriever at the fair, the narrator dog. I actually started crying by the time we got to the punchline for that.
Oh my.
And I felt like I was laughing harder than anybody else in the theater, and I was like, "Oh God, does that does that make me weird?"
Oh man.
But yeah, I just yeah, that fucking this movie is awesome. So yeah,
Yeah.
actually, I'm gonna bump it up. I'm gonna give this movie a solid 3.5. This is a really fun R-rated film. If
Yeah.
you've been looking for something like this for a while, like something like super bad, like a early Judd Apatow style comedy, like I said, I think Good Boys a few years back, that one kind of reminds me a bit of this. Although I actually think I enjoyed this one a lot more than Good Boys. This one had way more jokes that hit. Uh, so yeah, I'd give this a 3.5. Sam, I'm gonna give it to you. I want to know your final thoughts and what you would give this movie.
So one thing I wanted to mention, also they do have like their quote unquote like sensitive moments, but even then they throw a joke in.
Yeah. Okay. Well. Okay. So and that is one thing that I remember. Like a lot of people were. Well, the one review I saw of this was basically a guy like saying like don't expect anything that's like gonna tug at your heartstrings or like pull,
But I mean,
like make you think or anything like that.
for
But there
me,
were
some
actually,
of it did.
I was gonna say there were a couple moments that almost got me during this movie. Now, I would say I did agree with the guy I was watching his review. He said that he felt like those moments. I now after seeing the movie, I understand what he was referencing. I do think that they should have given those moments just a little bit more time to breathe,
Mm-hmm.
and that would have made them almost a little bit more gut wrenching. And
Yeah.
I'm the type of guy where I like when you're able to mix in strong ends of spectrum. So if you can like make me laugh my ass off at one moment and then I start to like tear up the next and then all of a sudden I'm laughing again or I'm like super tense. Like I like that when you're able to make me like jump around in emotions. And this movie almost got me to a point where I was like, "Oh shit, this movie could have like some real like emotional heart to it." But it's just a little shallow
Yeah.
with it. It doesn't stick with it just long enough to make it hit enough for me to like I said, I almost teared up a couple of times. I never did. And I'm a sucker, bro. It's really easy to make me tear up during a movie. So, if they had just let those like the one moment in the forest, I don't want to go too into detail, but it's like near the end of the movie. Uh
I think I know which part you're talking about.
and yeah, it was just like if they had given that moment like just another minute of breath,
Mm-hmm.
I think it would have really fucking like stuck the landing. But
Yeah.
that's a small nitpick, and I'm not looking for something like that in a movie like this. And honestly, like I'm almost glad they didn't because I don't know if this movie had the backbone to carry some emotional weight like that on top of that because the story is the story's really flimsy. I mean, the story is almost not the point.
Yeah.
The point is the journey. It's like any movie. And this is another thing, and I was thinking about it even when we were watching the movie. But then that article I read about the fact that they use practical dogs. The guy who directed this movie took a lot of inspiration from earlier like 90s movies where it was like dogs on adventures to like get home or whatever, like Homeward Bound, shit like that.
Old
Even like
Yeller.
Babe, shit like that, where it was like a live action dog trying to get home or
Yeah.
whatever. And so he took a lot of inspiration from those movies for this, but then said, but what if it was an R-rated comedy? And I actually like I did not know a whole lot about this movie going into it outside. It just kind of looked funny, but I've grown a whole new respect for this movie after knowing like a little bit of the backstory on how this is made and the fact that they like he drew the inspiration from that and it was just like let's just completely pervert that.
Yep.
Like fucking John Waters. Like,
Yeah, I think my final rating, honestly, I probably agree with you. Like a 3.5, 3.4 out of 5.
yeah.
It was a good movie. I did enjoy it. So like,
I would say so final verdict we'll go 3.4. We'll go a little bit on the light side. 3.4. I would say if you got like a date night coming up or something, or you just are trying to like find a movie to watch this weekend and you're looking for some laughs, this is a movie to watch. If you like are like tight on a budget and you like are like very selective about what movies you want to watch and you just want to watch like the really good shit, I'd probably wait for this to come to like a streaming platform or something. Like it's not like something you have to go out and see. Although I will say it is fun to watch in a crowded theater.
yeah.
It is fun to watch with other people around because, like a lot of these, like most comedies, like it's fun when you're in like a packed house and everybody's laughing, and that's what we got tonight. And yeah, so definitely if you're looking for something to watch this weekend, Strays, go check this movie out. It's good. But yeah, I think that's basically all there is to talk about this movie. I mean, like I said, it's not like a super deep movie that you need to analyze or anything. It's just a lot of fun. So definitely go check this movie out. I think we're gonna wrap this up here. If you enjoyed this, please hit that subscribe button, leave a comment, let us know what you think. If you want to see us do more of these like reviews and stuff like that, we can try and finagle our way into more early access screenings. I don't know how we'll do that, but we'll figure it out.
Gotta win more trivia.
Honestly, I was thinking we just start going to the trivia where Eric got these from. Because land grant, I mean, they might like do this pretty often, so I don't know. But yeah, so we'll try and do more of these if you want us to. Let us know. But in the meantime, thanks for watching. I'm Devin.
Sam.
And we are Cinemoth Podcast. Well, this isn't the podcast. We're Cinemoth. The review. I don't know. That's a work in progress. We'll have to figure out a name for this section of the channel. But yeah, until next time, guys. Thanks for watching.
Adios.